Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Pure Picks. About to break down UFC 299, Sean O'Malley versus Marlon Vera 2. Joined here by Alex. How are you doing tonight?
What's up, James? Doing very well, man. UFC 299. It's about to be a banger. I love this fight card. I think there are a bunch of exciting fights, and can't looking forward to watching this upcoming weekend.
Yeah, I think this might be one of the best fight cards of the year. Definitely a good lead into UFC 290, 300, actually. I think this might be better than 300, so I think I'm definitely excited to break this down. Before we move on to UFC 299, want to go over some results from UFC Fight Night, Rosenstruck versus Gaziev. Not a good result for us overall. Down 3.5 units overall as well on the night. Had a few plays that hit, I think, but mostly it's a lot of L's. I wanted to go over some of those L's right now. So, first one that was a big miss for us and me personally was Javid Basharat. That was a play that, in hindsight, should not have even been played. Minus 700, minus 800 on a decision merchant, a guy that loves to go decision. Granted, it was a close fight. I rewatched it, and there could be a case that it was 29-28 Basharat, but I actually agreed with the decision. I think that Zahabi won 29-28. So bad bet overall, bad read. We will factor that into the decision next time. Second big miss that we had overall, and for me personally as well, was Shamil Giziev. Yeah, that guy showed some pretty horrible fight skills, and that gas tank did not help as well. So that was just a misplay and a bad read of buying into that kind of Dagestani hype, and he did not show much after round one. So overall, just two bad plays for us right there. Obviously, we had some other ones. I believe that the Sopai one, I would say that actually looked pretty solid for like the first 2 rounds or 2.5 rounds, 1.5 rounds. But it's a very volatile fight, and Oliveira showed that he was the better finisher in that case. Alex, did you have any other plays that you want to go over?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just again that this card was pretty disastrous. It also didn't help that this fight night card was like, I don't know, to have Gaziev and Rosenstrike as the main event. Um, Yeah, I don't know. It was just bad vibes. But we did have one parlay that hit. It was the best bets that I had told that I had posted about in one of the videos. It was Urseg to win and CLD to win. And I'd say both won pretty convincingly. So happy that, we were able to snipe those lines, minus 310 for Urseg and 265 for Duncan, because later on during the week it kind of inflated a lot. So happy we got in at 2.44 units to win two. But overall, again, pretty disastrous card. But we're gonna move on, and hopefully, I know we'll do better for 299.
Yeah, I believe so too. And Alex sniped those plays early on last week, and he got amazing value on it. Plays were obviously, given on his best bets video, but he also sniped that play on our Discord with our Pure Picks Pro membership. So please, guys, sign up at purepicks.gg. Get that Pure Picks Pro membership to get that closing line value that Alex got. And he has a few plays for this week too. So, I think that you guys should definitely get on that and try to see what those plays are. Let's move on to this week. UFC 299. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities to really right some wrongs that we had from last week. And I'm excited to break down some of these fights because I do see some money making opportunities, some potential locks as well. Moving on to the first fight on the prelims, we have a women's MMA fight. It's going to be Joanne Wood versus Maryna Moroz. Joanne Wood, 16-8. She is 2-3 in her last five, and she's coming off that split decision win over Luana Carolina. Moroz is 11-5. She is 3-2 in her last five. She's actually coming off that submission loss to Karine Silva. As we look for the odds on this fight right here, we see that Moroz is a minus 210, opened up at a minus 154. I will say that both these ladies actually fought once before, about 9 years ago, where Moroz earned a first round submission armbar win over Joanne Wood. Alex, I'll kick it off to you. What do you think about this first fight on the prelims between Wood and Moroz?
Yeah, so one thing that or a couple things that I immediately noticed was that Joanne Wood is 38 years old, so getting up there in age. And another thing was that looking at her record, she's been submitted 5 times, all in the first round. So that was a little bit concerning for me. Then, kind of breaking down her tape, I noticed that she looks pretty clean, especially in the stand-up game. She likes to move forward, doesn't mind getting into the clinch, and, she'll throw knees and elbows. Now, in the Alexa Grasso fight, I thought she looked, especially good in the first round. But I think, that fight from Alexa Grasso to Luana Carolina, I thought she looked considerably worse. It seemed that like her age, that 1 year gap kind of caught up to her. So I thought that was, a little bit concerning as well. And then for Moroz, 6 submission wins, but uh, judging from her last two fights, I tend to think that this will stay on the feet. I think if there will be any grappling, I feel like it'll be Joanne Wood um, that initiates it. In my opinion, I just haven't really seen Moroz uh, kind of grapple, even though she does have 6 submission wins. So Moroz, I think she's a solid boxer as well, but she's kind of bad at finding her range. She had a lot of trouble against Maya. Um, I think she has combinations, floating style, kind of light on her feet, lunges forward with jabs. But when I watch Moroz, she has a very like, how do I describe it? Like obvious cadence
Hmm.
in the way that, she fights. It's like, okay, I'm a go in, come out, go in, come out. And so I didn't really like that either. And like I just don't like the price on Moroz because I feel like Moroz is gonna lose the first round just because Joanne Wood looks really good in the first round. Um, and then like Moroz can potentially win the next two, but like, is that worth like minus? I don't know what the price is at, 205 or something. Um, so Moroz is 32. I expect her to be the fresher fighter the deeper the fight goes, but yeah, I don't know. My pick is gonna be Joanne Wood actually, as the underdog. So that's gonna be my pick.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a pretty tough fight to predict. Even though, there was a first round submission win by Moroz 9 years ago, a lot can change in 9 years. So that data might not even be relevant to this fight today. I think Wood is a solid striker. She can mix in some grappling takedown when needed as well. I mean, I think she is really pretty solid at striking punches, knees, kicks, elbows. She has like a whole arsenal of striking that she can use. She also pumps out pretty decent volume as well. I think that her volume stats are pretty good. Almost 7 strikes landed per minute, and she has a positive striking ratio, which is something that's good. She hits more than she gets hit. I think that she can also have the takedowns in her back pocket, can make those fights closer than for the judges, so they can kind of decide then. Now she has been sub 5 times in her career, all in the first round and all in the UFC. So that's one of the red flags that I see. Moroz was one of the people that did that. So and it's also interesting because she does have 6 sub wins, but like you mentioned, I mean, to me, she seems like more of a stand up fighter. It's just more of a boxer. She does get hit more than she lands, though. I think that she prefers to fight on the outside, but she still gets hit. So that's just not a good sign. I think that her, you know, striking offense is also not as good as Wood, in my opinion. I think that right now I'll probably lean towards Moroz finding a victory over Wood via decision. And the main reason is that I think that she did look a little flat against Luana Carolina. And I feel like at age 38, you tend to not age, backwards. You tend to continue age forward, and especially in the fight game. So as flat as she looked against Luana Carolina, I think she's gonna look even flatter this fight. I think that Moroz by decision is probably going to be my pick, but I'm going to stay away from this fight completely. I'm not even going to play the over 2.5 there because Wood has shown an issue to be subbed in the first round, and Moroz is one of those people that did it. So I could see a finish in this fight, and I'm probably staying away from this fight overall. So yeah, that's going to be my pick, but probably just watch that fight and see what happens. Moving on to the next fight that we have on the prelims. We have CJ Vergara versus Asu Almabaev. Hopefully I said that name right. CJ Vergara, 12-4-1. He is 3-2 in his last five. He's actually coming off of that decision victory over Vinicius Salvador. Azu, 18-2, 5-0 in his last five. He's coming off of that thorough beatdown over Ode Osborne. Moving on to the odds for this fight right now, we have Azu at minus 450, open up at minus 375. I'm actually going to start off this one because I have pretty strong feelings about a certain fighter in this matchup. I think that just starting off with CJ, though, he's a kind of classic come forward pressure fighter, likes to use that aggressive striking to put a strong pace on his opponents. I think that he's able to string together combos pretty well, works the body with kicks. He actually excels in the clinch in the pocket. I mean, can dirty box pretty well and work in the knees. His grappling defense, I think, is okay. 74% takedown defense, but I think that he can be controlled on the ground, and that's a big hole that I see in his game. And that's going to be a bad recipe for a guy like Asu. Asu is a dominating wrestler, likes to throw at power. I think he has good technique and pace as well. Just a force in the grappling department. Scrambles well, has solid control. He's also able to hurt people on the ground with his ground and pound and finish with chokes. And I think his striking is okay. However, he really throws with the intent to hurt. I think that he has some nice pop on his shots. I think Asu will just implement the same game plan he used to fight Ode Osborne. CJ has shown that he can be dominated by higher level grapplers, and I see Asu putting on a dominant performance here. So pick here is Asu by sub. I think he's a parlay piece for me. I mean, minus 450 right now. It is getting pretty steep. I think that as the week goes on, I feel like the price would just go that direction as people kind of look into this fight. So pick here is Asu by sub. What do you think about this fight, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, I think Asu should be a gigalock here, to be honest.
Yeah.
Um, I think Vergara looks very, very small in the octagon, actually. Even though he has bigger measurables than Asu, he just, I don't know, he fights small. You know, he Vergara just kind of utilizes jabs and quick kicks that, kind of touch you up. And I think Vergara is, the type of fighter where, he's really when he's in his comfort zone, um, that's when he fights his best, when he can kind of uh, fight at his own pace and, you know, pick his spots to kind of go in and out. But I don't think Asu is going to let Vergara, fight his fight. I think Asu is going to be the one dictating the pace, the pressure, taking him down. I think I think it'll look somewhat similar to the Tatsuro Taira matchup, when, Vergara got taken down 3 times, in that matchup. So, yeah, I think I like Asu here. I think, should be a Giga lock.
Yeah, yeah. I think this is one of those ones where probably put it in before the price goes higher. I think it's going to go one direction for sure. Let's
Yeah.
move on to the next fight here. that we have on the prelims. So we have the debut of a pretty hyped heavyweight prospect. His name is Robelis Despaigne. He is a kind of a karate fighter. He's 4-0. This is making his UFC debut right now. He's coming off of I think that his last three fights have lasted a total of like less than a minute. So, like total. So I think this guy is, coming in and trying to really finish the fight. Josh Parisian, he's fighting against Josh Parisian, 15-7. He is 2-3 in his last five, and Josh Parisian is actually coming off that submission loss to Martin Buday via Kimura. Moving on to the odds for this fight, Despain is minus 320, open up at a minus 500, and I saw some some good odds for him, minus 287 earlier today. Kind of wish I locked that down. Now looking at it, Alex, I'll let you start off with this heavyweight breakdown. What do you think about this fight between Despain and Parisian here?
Yeah, this fight's pretty funny because I was actually doing UFC 299 tape study last week, and I remember getting to this fight and searching this guy up on YouTube, and I swear I think I watched his entire career highlights in a 4 minute
Yeah.
in a 4 minute YouTube video. Yeah, I mean this guy. I think this guy he's on the juice, man. Like he's insane. Looks like an insane athlete. Uh, Olympic Taekwondo medalist. I think that's his background. Looks very nimble for his size. The way he can, you know, utilize those leg kicks. And then, obviously he has that one shot knockout power, like One Punch Man.
Yeah.
Um, and so, I think he's definitely the side here, but obviously the worry is that he's making his UFC debut against probably much better competition in Parisian. Although Parisian has not looked good in his last two outings, got submitted by Budai, who and Budai got clobbered by Gaziv. So yeah, I don't know, man. Like I feel like this is a lock as well, but uh yeah, I don't know yet. I don't
Yeah.
know yet.
No, no, I share your sentiment, man. It's hard to lock in on a heavyweight after, what we witnessed in the main event last week. Despain, just a big Cuban guy. I mean, he's 6'7", 87-inch reach. It's like, I think the 87-inch is probably going to be a record for the UFC once he enters. I think he's probably has the longest reach in UFC history. And he's 6'7". I mean, this guy's really tall. Like you mentioned, this guy's an Olympic gold medalist in Taekwondo. I believe he got the bronze medal. Transitioned to MMA last 2 years and has not even seen a second round thus far. Low hands, Taekwondo kind of style, right? I think very unpredictable guy, can attack from different angles and just really utilizes his frame well. Just really his physical attributes as well. Now, this style, I think that it could lend itself to, him getting hit. However, he's just not paid that price so far in his matchups. Will he pay it here? I'm not too sure. I mean, I think that he moves pretty well for his size and just launch like jumping attacks, spinning attacks, flying attacks as well. This guy's pretty dynamic. He also has pretty unproven grappling, though. I mean, we've just not had the chance to really see in that area thus far. It's a really short MMA career. I mean, this guy only has 4 fights. 3 of them lasted under a minute. Josh is just that classic UFC heavyweight run of the mill kind of guy, right? I think he's just solid everywhere, but just not great anywhere. Likes to rely on volume, just toughness, uses his frame to wear on his opponents in the clinch and the grappling department. He can get taken down though, 46% takedown defense, and he can't get hit. So he has a 41% striking defense and just has not really looked that impressive overall in his career. He's gotten more losses than wins. I think Despain should be able to finish Parisian in the first round. I just don't see how this guy could lose, in my opinion. I mean, he's a much better athlete than Josh, and Josh just does not seem to have the game to expose any weak points for Despain yet. So I think that the UFC is getting a good train on Despain right now, and probably picked him a really good opponent for this because If they picked him maybe a tougher opponent, I could see potential for a trap, but I just feel like Josh Parisian is potentially on his way out, after maybe 3 losses here. So yeah, give me Despaigne. I think he's a parlay piece. I would play him in his KO line. I'm not sure what that is right now. Let me check. Let me see if it even dropped yet. Probably hasn't dropped yet, but yeah, I think Despaigne is probably gonna knock this guy on round 1, I believe. So that is the pick right there. Let's move on to the next fight here on the prelims. We have Felipe Lins versus Ion Cutelaba. Felipe Lins, 17-5. He is 3-2 in his last 5, and he's actually coming off the decision win over Maxim Grishin. I think Maxim is out of the UFC at the moment after that loss. Fight against Ion Cutelaba, 17-9-1. He is 2-3 in his last 5, and he is actually coming off of a dominating performance KO victory over Tanner Boser. As we look for the odds for this fight right now, we see that Felipe Lins, see, it's not really showing on this, but I think that
Yeah,
I don't see it either.
I don't see it on Bet Online.
Yeah.
If I remember though, I think that it was pretty close, like a pick 'em.
Yeah, something like that. Let me go in because I remember the Felipe Lins. It was like maybe I think Cutelaba was like minus 130 in the first fight that they had because they were initially supposed to fight in 2023, and then
Yeah,
that fight got canceled. So I think those were the odds. So yeah, I'm not sure if they've released that in Bet Online yet, but I guess we'll see later on in the week.
yeah.
Alex, what do you
I
think
don't see
about
it.
this fight between Lins and Cutelaba? I'll kick it off to you.
Uh, yeah, I remember just not having a good read on this fight. Uh, I know I liked I picked Cutelaba to win.
Hmm.
I think, just because he looks a little bit better on his feet, like more twitchy, and quick. But I didn't like the fact that he's been finished 3 times in his last 5 fights. So that was like a red flag for me. But, for Lynn, I didn't like that he was 38 years old. So, yeah, like, I don't know, man. This is like one of these fights where, like, I would definitely just stay away. I don't think there's any I think it's just a toss-up, so I'm staying away.
Yeah, I think I agree with your assessment. I mean, just to kind of give a summary of Felipe Lins, I do think he strikes with great power, good volume. He has a black belt in jiu-jitsu, 4 career sub wins, none in the UFC. I think his wrestling and takedown game could improve as well. I do think he has decent cardio, can win decisions. Facing off against Cutelaba, who's a wrestler, just definition of a glass cannon, killed or be killed kind of fighter. He likes to start pretty fast and finish fights quickly with his aggression. I do think he's a good wrestler. He has some good athleticism in that case. I think he has good volume, pace for takedowns, powerful ground and pound, powerful striking as well as KO capabilities. He can fade the later the fight goes on. This guy's 6-8 in the UFC, shown to be really chinny. He's been KO'd 3 times already. Yeah, I'm leaning towards Cutelaba finding the KO finish here. However, I definitely do not trust him enough to lay potential juice on him as a favorite, which I think he will open up as a favorite probably. Or I really don't even trust Lins enough to play him at dog odds. Yeah, so just a really pass for me because I could see this going decision. I could see this finishing inside the distance. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna pass on that fight overall and move on to better opportunities throughout the card. Moving on to the next fight, we have Michel Pereira versus Michal Oleksiejczuk. Michel Pereira, 29-11. He is 5-0 in his last 5, and he's actually coming off a KO victory in his middleweight debut in the UFC over Andre Petroski, fighting against Michal Oleksiejczuk, 19-6, 3-2 in his last 5. He's coming off of that KO victory over Chidi Nkwani. Chidi Bang Bang, is what I like to call him. uh, Moving on to the odds for this fight. So we've had some interesting line movement throughout the last few weeks. Michel Pereira is minus 155 right now, opened up at minus 175. So it's kind of been yo-yoing back and forth in that kind of range. At one point, Michel was actually a minus 115 But he's now since kind of dropped back to that minus 155 range. Alex, what are your opinions right here between this fight between Michel and Michal?
So this is actually one of the picks that I told the pure pickers about. I feel like, we sniped a pretty good line. So I got in at minus 135. So now at
Yep.
minus 155. Um, man, I feel like I feel like this line can potentially go up to minus 200. Um, I was actually really surprised, breaking down both of these fighters and seeing the line as close as they were. Um, at least for me, when I'm watching Oleksiejczuk, I feel like, he only really uses his hands, little to no kicks. Obviously, a very weak ground game. He's been submitted 4 times. His power shot, is his left hand. He'll utilize straights as well as overhands with that left hand. I don't think he really has a diverse offensive toolkit. But he does stay pretty light on his feet, and he'll bob his head side to side, then kind of look to enter the pocket and land that left hand. Like Michel Pereira, I don't think either of them have the best cardio. Uh, and I do want to point out that Oleksiejczuk, even though he won his last fight, he was wobbled hard in his last fight against Chitty Bang Bang. Um, then when I look at Pereira, I think he has way more dynamic striking. He likes to move laterally from side to side, so I could see Oleksiejczuk, having some trouble kind of um, you know pinpointing, like trapping him. Um, so Michel Pereira, he also lets the opponent move forward, and then he'll find timings to explode and strike back. So yeah, I mean, I have Michel Pereira. I think at minus 135, it's really good value, and uh, yeah, my pick is Michel Pereira.
Yeah, and that was a straight play pick that Alex kind of brought up over the course of a few days. I think he got a really good value of that as well. So yeah, that's just a preview of what a Pure Pick Pros membership would get you guys good value, good closing line value that we see. Just looking at this fight overall, I think Michel is an unorthodox kind of capoeira striker, right? That Brazilian dance style, really hone in on his skill set and really fighting with a good game plan in recent years as well. I think starting off right, he was doing a lot of dancing and flipping in the fight, but he seemed to be a little bit more measured as time has gone on. Um, hit this fluid movement. I mean, just a really great athlete. I think that he also has a really good chin. He's never been KO'd in the UFC, one KO loss in his career. He likes to use explosive strikes that could end the fight, flying knees, for example, and really underrated grappler as well. I think he has some good jujitsu skills. He's worked on more of a wrestling grappling approach in his recent fights and it's just been able to land takedowns and good transitions and kind of sweeps in those exchanges. I think that although he has fought with good IQ recently, I think that that last KO win that he had over Petrosky, I do have a potential concern that he might want to just try to strike with Michel or McCall like exclusively and not working any grappling. Maybe he's fallen in love with his hands. But I do tend to believe that he'll use that well-rounded skill set because I think in this fight that should be the route to go, just to use everything in his toolbox. Because McCall is a good striker, good KO power, just shown to have really some bad grappling deficiencies. I mean, quick and powerful hands, 6 KOs in the UFC. He's tough to put away on the feet. You saw that in his last fight against Chitty. This guy was losing, and then he came out with a KO win. I think that he's only also been finished once in his career as far as just a KO as well. He's proven to kind of weather storms. This is going to be Michel's fight to lose. I think that if he attempts to trade shot for shot with McCall, this could be a 50-50 fight. if he works in the takedowns, the grappling, I think he should just be able to control Michal enough on the ground to lock in a sub win or decision win even. So pick here is Michel via sub. Um, I'm close to saying that he's probably a parlay piece for me as well. I think this is actually really good value on him. But for now, I think I'll probably just stay away. But as the week goes on, I'll probably lock that in if I see any other good signs during weigh-ins and whatnot. Moving on to the next fight here that we have on the prelims, and this is going to be a 14 fight card, guys. So there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of fights here to find some good angles and plays. So we have Pedro Munhoz versus Kyler Phillips. Pedro Munhoz, the Young Punisher. What a fitting nickname he has. So he's 20-8. He is 1-3-1 his last five. So he's actually coming off a loss with Marlon Vera about 6 months ago, fighting against Kyler Phillips, the Matrix, 11-2. He's 4-1 his last five. He's coming off that decision win over Ronnie Barcelos. Looking at the odds for this fight right now, we have Kyler Phillips at minus 261. He opened up at minus 200. Alex, what do you think about this fight in the 135-pound division between the veteran Pedro Munhoz and the young up-and-comer Kyler Phillips here?
Yeah, this one is interesting. I was actually um looking. This is like one of those fights that there was decent line movement. So I was interested in kind of understanding why. Because I just remember, from watching Pedro Munoz's fights that, he's like a vet. He's very good, very decent. Um, but I think I do agree with the line movement here actually. Um, and I'll tell you why in a minute. I think first of all for Kyler Phillips, I think he has great, movement, great defense. He definitely does slow down towards the end of the towards the third round. I think you know he he also has wrestling and BJJ experience, so he's all around. He's a very good fighter. No real weak areas in his game, as far as I can tell. And then on the Munoz side, obviously excellent leg kicks. He'll kind of just cut you up with all sorts of leg kicks. He's never been submitted, nor has he ever been knocked out. He's true vet with a ton of experience. Um, but watching the third round between Munoz and Chito Vera, it was clear that Vera was starting to pull ahead. If you watch that round, Vera was just peppering Munoz with his jabs, utilizing his 5.5-inch reach advantage. So in this fight, Kyler, he's going to have a 7-inch reach advantage. And so it's going to this fight is going to look a lot like the Munoz Sugar Sean O'Malley fight. So if you watch that fight, Munoz, I think he won the first round. So he spammed a shit ton of leg kicks in that first round. But in terms of optics, that reach advantage is going to be the same between Kyler and Pedro Munoz. But the difference here is that I don't think Munoz is going to win the first round, just because in Munoz's fight against O'Malley is kind of like a counterpuncher. He waits a lot for the opponent to kind of come in, and so Munoz wasn't really engaging. He was just spamming his leg kicks, whereas Kyler Phillips is very aggressive from the first round. He always wins the first round. And so I think Kyler is going to be very proactive with his striking. And I just feel like he's 100% going to bring the fight to Munoz. So pick here is going to be Kyler Phillips.
Yeah, I mean, I think I understand a lot of what you said about that breakdown right there. I think that Munoz, he's the definition of his nickname, right? Young Punisher. He has a lot of wins over a lot of hype trains over the years. The last one that he had was over Chris Gutierrez, where he decisioned him. I mean, a solid striker, likes to just move forward, pump out non-stop pace, counters well as well. I mean, he has heavy leg kicks, nice body kicks. He's pretty good in the pocket. He does eat some shots though. but this guy really just outvets a lot of those shots. I mean, a solid BJJ, 82% takedown defense as well. Has the ability to cinch in chokes, although he hasn't had a submission win in a few years. I think he's pretty durable as well. I mean, never been finished. Phillips, I just think that he's the next generation of the MMA fighting, right? I think he's just good everywhere, good striking, uses dynamic attacks. He can be a bit too flashy and wild for my taste at times, but I think that he has just a solid all around skill set to just make up for that. He has solid grappling, sets a good pace there as well, good timing on his takedowns, has good ground and pound. He was able to lock in subs. He's also durable. He's never been finished. I think that this could be a close fight that probably will go to decision. I will just side with the younger Phillips. I think he's just going to be too fast and quick and just has that reach advantage as well. I think he has a 72-inch reach. Pedro Munhoz has a 65-inch reach. So there's going to be a 7-inch reach advantage for Phillips here. I'll say Phillips via decision, but I actually like the over 2.5 as a potential parlay piece. Right now, the over 2.5, if we're looking at it right now, it's minus 285. So opened up at minus 205. Some pretty heavy line movement for that to make it minus 285 right now. So pick here is Kyler Phillips via decision, but I think I like that over 2.5 as a potential parlay piece. What do you think about the over 2.5? I want to get your thoughts actually about that.
Uh, so this one I did not. I'm gonna be honest. I locked in a bet myself for the over, so I got in at minus 270.
Nice.
I didn't. This is not a specific bet that I alerted pure pickers, just because I wasn't 100% sure. But as evidence, I do like it. I think it will hit personally. But just for full disclosure, we kind of like to discuss as a group before we put any bets on Bet MMA tips, and so that's why the other I put two bets in, which we kind of discussed, but this third bet I did not. So that's why I didn't alert the Discord group, but I do have a bet in for the over.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, and one last thing to note. I mean, I doubted this Kyler Phillips guy in his last fight. I was on the Ronnie Barcelos side, and that was just tough to watch. So I'm not doubting him again. I think this guy just is actually. I think he's the real deal. He also has a win over Song Yadong, by the way, guys. Like, look back on the record. This guy's actually pretty legit. Moving on to the next fight here. Oh yes, we have one of my favorite personal fighters to break down. We have Mateusz Gamrot versus RDA, Rafael dos Santos. Gamrot, his nickname's Gamer. To me, he's Scamrot. This guy just keeps winning, right? 23-2. He's 4-1 his last five. He's coming off of that KO victory over Rafael Fiziev, where he broke Fiziev's knee with, that defending a strike. Some might call it a fluke, but hey, man, it's Gamrot's game, right? Rafael dos Santos, he's 32-15. 3-2 in his last five. He's actually coming off a decision loss to Vicente Luque at the welterweight division. So he's dropping back down to 155 after that fight. Looking at the odds, it's actually been steamed pretty heavy since we started the breakdown. So it did open up at minus 400, and there were certain points throughout the last couple weeks where it was minus 300, but now it's been going back down to a minus 425. So some dog action was taken, but now people are shoving back on Gamrot, going on the Gamrot train here. Alex, what do you think about Gamrot versus RDA in this lightweight matchup?
Yep. I mean, I also like to call him Scamrot.
Yeah,
Just because, I think this guy's a pretty funny fighter. Um, so it's interesting because uh this is one of those fights, I had messaged the group yesterday evening. I was like, I kind of like Gamrot as a parlay piece at minus 330. Uh Obviously line has since moved. He's now a 425. So, wish we put that in. But this morning I put in another bet related to this fight, the over 2.5. So we got in at minus 265. So what it opened up at, so it's minus 310. And so I really think that one, I think Gamrot's gonna win, and two, I do think the over will hit. In terms of the breakdown, like RDA is 39 years old, and this is gonna be a fight at lightweight. And RDA moved from welterweight to lightweight a lot, so I don't really understand it. It's going to be really tough for him, especially having last fought at welterweight against Vicente Luque to now move back down and weight cut all the way back to lightweight. Um, yeah, I mean, like Luque took down RDA 8 times in the fight, so I kind of see the same thing where Gamrot, he loves to shoot, and so I feel like RDA is going to slow down a lot just from the Gamrot spamming takedowns. But I could see RDA having some success early, which is why I didn't necessarily put in that Gamrot money line outright or like as part of a parlay. Because I think RDA has pretty good striking, and so he could see some success early, win round one, and then all of a sudden, it could be like a sweaty decision. But I think I like the over. That should also be a lock, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. I like the over too, actually, better than the Gamrot money line, in my opinion. Yeah, Gamrot, man, this guy, he's just a nonstop wrestler. Just pushes that pace the entire fight. He just turns the MMA match into a wrestling match, is what I like to kind of say. I mean, I think that his takedown volume is elite. He does struggle with control though, so he lets his opponents back up. That's why he averages that many takedowns. He's also not much of a sub threat. I think he has okay kickboxing, but the threat of the takedown just makes him much better than he actually is on the feet. He has an okay leg kick. I think that his striking defense is something that he could use. I mean, he could improve on. He seems to, whenever I watch him at least, I mean, he seems to just get knocked down in most of his fights, and it just continues to show incredible recovery and durability. Just get back up and continue diving for legs. I mean, this guy's really that nonstop. RDA is just tried and true vet at this point, former champion. He's had success at 155 and 170, but he's been going back and forth a lot throughout the last few years. I think that he's a solid, veteran, good grappling, good takedowns as well, can use solid control, just wealth of experience in MMA grappling. He likes to shoot for takedowns as he's working on the feet, so it's rare for him to shoot like a naked takedown. I think that he's also a good striker, likes to attack with kicks at all three levels. Great cardio as well. I mean, he's also able to just last the whole fight, decent chin. I believe that Gamrot will be able to just push the pace and break down RDA throughout 3 rounds. RDA just will not be dangerous enough on the feet or the ground to be able to deter or punish Gamrot for his aggressive takedown game plan. So pick here is going to be Gamrot by decision. I like the over 2.5 better than the straight money line for Gamrot, and I would consider that a parlay piece as well. So yeah, I think that's a good play for that fight because I do think it's going to go decision more often than not between those two. Moving on to the next fight here that we have on the prelims. This is going to be a women's MMA bout. We have Katlyn Chookagian versus Maycee Barber. Katlyn 18-5. She is 4-1 in her last five, and she's coming off that decision loss to Manon Farrow. Maycee Barber 13-2, 5-0 in her last five, coming off that thrilling knockout finish win over Amanda Ribas. And we look for the odds right now. We see that Maycee Barber is a minus 193, opened up at minus 190. At some point was a minus 224, so that's the range that it's been kind of going at for the last few weeks. Over is actually minus 350 as well. Alex, what do you think about this fight between Katlyn and Maycee here?
Yep. So I think Chookagian is Katlyn Chookagian is definition of a point fighter. Not much power in her shots. Really just looking to land small combinations. Maycee Barber, on the other hand, definitely has more power. Uh, Last fight, obviously, she landed a huge head kick onto Amanda Ribas. But it is important to note that before that Ribas fight, she had 6 straight fights go to decision. So personally, I think the over on the rounds is a lock. Um, but in terms of, yeah, I mean, like, so I don't see there's no chance in hell Maycee Barber gets finished. And then for Chukagian, she's just such a veteran of the sport. I feel like she knows what she needs to do at all times. In the octagon, she's kind of seen it all. So that's kind of why I like the over. But in terms of picking a fighter, I'm actually picking Chukagian. I think, I think she's going to understand how to maximize her reach advantage. And so I kind of just see her poking Maycee Barber from distance, dishing out more volume. And I feel like she knows what the judges like to see, kind of,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. And so, yeah, that's why I'm picking Chukagian as the underdog.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Caitlin's a veteran mainstay at the flyweight division for the women. She has a reach and height advantage that she uses really well in most of her fights. Great range control. She's not dangerous on the feet. Prefers the point fight for the outside for 15 minutes. This is an interesting stat right here. She's 11-3 in UFC decisions, so she wins decisions more often than not. She has been KO'd twice though. Once by Valentina Shevchenko, the goat in that division, probably, and she did get uh, she got sniped by Andrade of all people. So she did get sniped on a body shot. Barber, great all around fighter, a good all around fighter actually. I mean, does have a preference to strike. I think that she has good strength to her. Has a kind of a bully pit bull kind of style. I don't think it's as strong as like a Andrade, but she has a kind of a similar kind of style. Power shots for her division. Striking defense could improve. I mean, she keeps her hands pretty low. She can push people up against the cage and land some power shots as well. Solid grappling. Yeah, I think this fight could be a lot closer than expected. I still will side with Barber here just to be the side. I think that she's also had some close fights in the past, and I think Katlyn is just the queen of having those kind of fights. So it's gonna be a close one, but I'll just side with Barber just because I think that she will just use that Andrade like kind of game plan to hopefully dish out some kind of heavier damage throughout the course of 15 minutes. I would actually play the over 2.5 as well. I actually like that play. So yeah, that's a parlay piece for me. I'd rather play that than play either side for this case. Moving on to the next fight that we have here. We have Jailton Almeida versus Curtis Blaydes. Curtis Blaydes, 17-4. He's 3-2 in his last 5. He's coming off of that KO loss to Sergey Pavlovich. Jailton Almeida, 20-2, 5-0 in his last 5. He's actually coming off a decision victory over Derek Lewis. Looking at the odds for this fight right now, we have Curtis Blaydes as a minus 120 favorite on Bet Online. Opened up at plus 160 and then was actually instantly bet to minus 130 or 120 or so. So, yeah, interesting line movement there. Alex, what do you think about this feature prelim between two heavyweights, Blaydes versus Almeida here?
Uh, Pretty exciting fight, actually. I'm looking forward to this one. I think, obviously we know about Curtis Blaydes, his wrestling background. But I think there are two questions that we kind of need to ask. The first one is, can Curtis Blaydes stuff jail times takedowns? And the second one is, if Curtis Blaydes does stuff his takedowns, does jail time offer anything on the feet? So, just from doing it's hard to kind of get that answer from doing the tape study on Jailton, just because anyone he's fought, he's been able to uh, pretty easily get the opponent to the ground. Very impressive in his last fight against Derek Lewis. Just so relentless with the way he's able to shoot takedowns, grab a hold of your leg and bring Derek Lewis down. Um, but I think I agree with the line movement. If I'm probably going to pick Curtis Blaydes for a couple reasons. I think the first one is, I don't think jail time has fought anyone as athletic as Curtis Blaydes at heavyweight. And the second I think is, I don't think Jailton Almeida is kind of like a true heavyweight. Uh, Obviously, his measurables in terms of like the height and reach match up, but the way his body fills out, he's not as heavy as those heavyweights, and so I feel like he might have some trouble bringing down a fighter like Curtis Blaydes, who's huge and has a wrestling background. So yeah, my pick is going to be Curtis Blaydes. I don't know if I'm going to have a play yet, but really, really excited for this fight.
Yeah, to have this fight be a featured prelim, I think it's a godsend for viewers. It's a very good. It's gonna be a really good fight. Especially if you enjoy, grappling exchanges. I think there's gonna be a lot of grappling here. Blades, I think he's a good heavyweight wrestler. He's been relying more on his hands in recent years. Strong wrestler who shoots for legit takedowns. He's able to time his entries pretty well. This is an interesting fact that I saw. I mean, he's actually not landed a takedown since 2021. So he's been actually using a lot more striking. Now, that could be matchup kind of dependent, right? But that is a fact that he hasn't landed a takedown since 2021. He does have power in his hands, good KO capabilities. He's also shown to be a bit chinny and indecisive in his game plan. He's been KO 4 times in the UFC, albeit all to high level, heavyweight kind of strikers. I think that Almeida is a good high level grappler who has just dominated the heavyweight division with his grappling pace and slick sub skills. He used to be a light heavyweight and moved up to heavyweight. And I think that he's really, at least with his opponents thus far, shown that there has been a gap in terms of a grappling skill set talent from the light heavyweight to heavyweight. We saw what John Jones did to a much larger extent in that championship matchup. He just showed that there is just a higher level of grappling that is in the lighter divisions compared to the heavyweight division overall. Solid takedowns. I think he has good control on the ground. He's able to attack with ground and pound, goes for the sub. I think that one of his best attributes is this guy has a really good motor, and I think that goes back to him being a light heavyweight, right? He has a really good motor, good cardio. We saw what he did to Derek Lewis for 5 rounds. That's 25 minutes. He just nonstop was grappling. He can be really basic on the feet, though. I mean, I really feel like this guy just has some basic punches and like one front kick that he uses to just transition to his takedown attempt. He's done that like for all of his fights, and so far it's worked. But this will be his first, I think, real test at heavyweight. I will lean towards saying that Almeida will be able to just expose Blaydes' grappling game. I think that Blaydes is a good offensive wrestler. However, I don't know if he's actually been tested by another high level grappler himself throughout his career. I do think that Blaydes has just also shown less of a willingness to grapple and just rely more on his hands to win fights in the last few years. So I'm going to pick Almeida to show him the grappling and the pace. I actually think Jailton inside the distance is not bad play, but I mean, if you can get plus odds on Jailton, right now he's plus 100. I would consider that decent. This will be a tough fight, but I think Jailton's going to do it. I think he's going to be able to take down Blaydes as he shoots for those takedowns, and it's just going to be relentless over and over again. So yeah, give me Jailton at plus odds for a potential dog play here. Moving on to the main card, we have just truly a banger of a fight here. So we got Peter Yan versus Song Yadong. Peter Yan, no mercy, 16-5. He's 1-4 in his last five. So I still see that as really shocking. Can't believe he's 1-4. He is coming off that just decision loss to Marab, where he was defending takedowns every second. It seemed like fighting against Song Yadong, 21-7-1, 4-1 his last five. He's coming off that pretty dominant decision win over Chris Gutierrez. Looking at the odds for this fight right now, it's actually dead even. So Peter Yan is a minus 108, actually minus 110, and Song Yadong is a minus 110. So it's literally a pick 'em fight right now. Alex, I'll let you break down this first fight of the main card. What do you think about this banger between Yan and Song here?
Man, I mean, you know I love me some Song Yadong.
Yeah, I know.
Um, this fight is tough though,
Yeah,
man,
it's tough.
because it's really tough, and it's because so Piotr Jan is I think he's at his best when he's able to dictate the pace and pressure of the fight, when he's the one kind of choosing, his moments, right? He prefers like a slower pace. As you saw in Piotr Jan's last fight against Marab, like he was very uncomfortable. Marab made that fight very ugly, shooting unlimited takedowns at him. Jan could never really get going. He wasn't able to get in rhythm. And then you kind of look at his fight against Sean O'Malley, which I think Piotr Jan won.
hmm
Um, I know, some people will say Sugar Sean won that, but I really do think Piotr Jan won that pretty convincingly. Where Sugar Sean is a kind of slower fighter, and so Jan was able to kind of show uh his best attributes, which is uh counter punching and mixing in his wrestling, all of that stuff. So that's why I think this fight is going to be really difficult for Song, just because Song also is pretty like slow pace. Um, Song Yadong actually reminds me a lot of Ilya Topuria, in that Song Yadong stays like very connected to the ground, and that's why he has so much power in his shots, because he's always on the ground. Uh, like he can generate power very quickly, as opposed to someone who's very light on their feet. They'll take like an extra like millisecond to generate power. So I think Song is has some insane power, and so I could see Song like winning based off of getting these crazy tags onto Pure Yan, and I hope that happens. Uh, in my notes, I wrote that the over seems like really, really great value. Um, so I did this tape like study like last week, and so yeah, in my notes I had the over as like a lock. I'm going to pick Song Yadong just because I think I'm biased for sure. But yeah, give me Song Yadong here.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean, man. I'm rooting for Song Yadong in this fight, regardless of what happens and what I think. Yan is a just a high level kickboxer. Likes to use a patient approach in the first round. He really uses that first round to just download that data. Make reads on his opponents. It's a game plan that has been picked up by our favorite Josh Van. Right, this guy loses pretty much every first round, and he just comes out second, third round, coming out looking like a champion, pretty much. After that though, starts fast with forward pressure, mixes his strikes pretty well, counters really well. He has a really nice high guard, and it's one of those styles where he's able to block with his high guard, and he returns two, three, four shots to your one shot. So I do like the fact that he's able to also just stand in front of his opponents at times, just trade shots. He has good chin and durability as well on the feet. Good kicks, however, they work better off his punches. He's not able to throw kicks as one-off shots as good as his punches. He throws really good naked punches, but not. I don't think he's good throws good naked kicks. He's good in the clinch, dirty boxing expert, and from this position, he can actually work in trips and throws from here. 85% takedown defense. That percentage went down after that Moroz fight. Moroz shot 49 takedowns on him and landed 11. So, I mean, Jan's still stuffed, about like 38 takedowns or so. But that's freaking crazy, right? To be able to shoot 49 takedowns. So, Song is this is gonna be a different matchup for Jan. I mean, Song's an athletic, powerful fighter. He's shown improvement in each of his fights. I think that his striking is solid, but he just uses that athleticism more so, I think, to just move and pump out a good volume, good power, popping his shots, attacks the body well. I think his striking defense could improve a little bit, eat some shots sometimes. He's proven to improve that grappling though, especially in that last fight. I mean, he landed 2 takedowns out of 3 and controlled Chris Gutierrez for 11 minutes. Solid takedown defense as well. I think he stuffed 7 takedowns from Ricky Simone and only allowed 51 seconds of control time. So I think this is going to be a stand-up fight. I think both of these guys will probably fight to a close decision. Both fighters are pretty durable, have similar kind of stand-up and grappling skills. I think the two differences I see is that Song may be the better athlete in this matchup. I think that like out of once he weighs in, I think he goes back up to like it's been noted that he's like 167 pounds or something like that, and that's huge.
Damn.
That's huge for a bantamweight, man. Like this guy's cutting crazy weight, so he's a huge guy at that division. But I do think that Jan just has the larger toolbox and skill set on the feet. I mean, I keep on watching this combo that he put on Corey Sandhagen, who beat Song Yadong, by the way. And Jan beat Corey pretty convincingly, in my opinion. I mean, he had this like 1-2 with a spin kick. And man, I feel like this guy does have that in his arsenal. So I do think the third round format will probably help, Song in this case. However, I can still see him losing 29-28 to Jan. So pick here is going to be Jan for me. I think that this is a potential buy low at pick 'em odds. I mean, this guy's 1-4. I mean, maybe this is he can't go lower than this. I don't think. If he loses this one, then he might be done as far as a contender. So Jan via decision. I'm just staying away for now. I do think this is going to be a close fight, and even at those pick 'em odds, I probably won't play it. Maybe I'll wait until Jan becomes an actual dog at plus odds to play it, get that dog action. But yeah, for now, I'm probably just going to stay away from it and just enjoy the fight. I think it's going to be a good fight. Moving on to the next fight on the main card, we have another banger. So it's just gonna be banger after banger in this main card. I think one of the best main cards of the year. We have Gilbert Burns versus Jack Della Maddalena. Gilbert Burns 22-6. He is 3-2 in his last 5. He's coming off that decision loss to Bilal Muhammad. JDM 16-2, 5-0 in his last 5. He's coming off of that split decision win over Kevin Holland. Pretty close fight. JDM minus 150 favorite, opened up at a minus 105. So, he actually opened up as a slight underdog, very, very slight underdog. Now he's a favorite at minus 150. Yeah, Alex, man, I want to hear your thoughts actually. What do you think about this welterweight matchup between Burns and JDM here?
So I don't know, man. This one, I've been actually going back and forth here. I think mainly for me, I'm just worried about the takedowns because I remember uh Jack's fight against um Basil Hafez. I think he was a minus 600,
Yeah, he
and I
was.
loaded this guy. I loaded this guy up in my parlays, and dude, I was sweating like heavy, man. It was like Jack just kept on jumping guillotines and
Yeah.
um just like low IQ um mechanics, and I don't know, like Jack also gets hit a lot too. Like he was just trading with Basile, and then in the Kevin Holland fight, that was like another very close fight. I think both went to split decision.
Hmm.
And against a guy like Burns, who's uh, a veteran who's, fought, uh, top of the top welterweights. I think it's a tough fight for me to call. I mean, to be honest, I'm going to side with Burns as the underdog here, just because I think he's going to show that veteran experience, and he's going to do something like he's gonna like strike and then push him against the cage and then shoot for like a takedown, and get a takedown that way. I kind of see that happening. And obviously Gilbert Burns super dangerous on the ground. Um, but Jack showed that he can get up. But he was controlled, I think, for a decent amount of time against Basile. But Basile is like a huge guy. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Gilbert Burns here as the underdog pick. But I don't know if I have a not playing it right now. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think that this could be a pretty dangerous fight for JDM. Definitely. I mean, Burns is a one-time title contender. High level Brazilian Jiu Jitsu grappling skills, improved striking over the years. Good striking. I mean, he has good power and KO power as well. Good leg kicks. At times, he has proven to throw caution in the wind and just wind up in brawls, depending on his opponent, I guess. But I mean, he does get into a lot more brawls than I would like to see. His striking defense is a little bit suspect as well. I think this guy just has a style or like maybe some kind of movement about him where he just eats like jabs and straights for candy at times. Like this guy just like eats the jabs. You saw what Hamzat Chimaev did. I mean, I don't think Chimaev is even that great of a striker, and he was just popping that jab and straight at Gilbert Burns, and that's ultimately what got him the win in that case. Highly credentialed Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, dude. I mean, I think that if this fight ends up on the ground at all, might be a really bad time for Jack in this case. He also might be the best. Just maybe it has not much bearing on this fight, but he's one of the best defensive grapplers. I think Hamzat was actually just bewildered by Burns' ability to on bottom position, right? Because Hamzat had top position a lot, and I remember Hamzat saying that he Burns was doing something weird to his hands in those positions, and that's what made him kind of get off him. Because yeah, I think Burns was gonna probably snatch an armbar or something on Hamzat during that fight, and that's why he kind of went away from that and just made it a stand up kind of brawl. Um, JDM, smooth and dangerous MMA boxer. I mean, just proving his hands at the UFC level at least. Counters well, able to cut the cage off well. Movement's pretty clean. He does work the body, has some mean body hooks. He has the ability to switch stance as well. He does have a bit of a hole in the grappling. I mean, he defends them, so 82% takedown defense. But once this guy's down, has a tendency to just get held down at times. Um, Yeah, I think that for me though, I'm probably gonna lean with JDM at this moment. I think that this fight will play out similar to Burns' loss against Dan Hooker. I think JDM's just gonna be the cleaner striker here. Will be able to launch punches from the head or the body. I think Burns' best chance is to grapple here, and I don't know that fight against Bilal Muhammad was a kind of a red flag for me because I feel like his physicality has gone down as he exits his prime year. I mean, this guy is 37 years old. Um, I know he's a juice kind of user. 'Cause I don't know if you guys seen that video. There's like this video on Twitter or something. This guy was like, "Yeah, I've been implementing a lot of new steroids into my game." Like he actually said that. So like I'm pretty sure he slipped it in, and he probably But yeah, we saw what happened when that happens. If you use too much, like your body eventually starts to break down from that usage. Look at what happened to TJ Dillashaw, right? So like I don't know, man. I think I'm going JDM here, via KO. Um, I wish it was a little bit better. I mean, minus 150 is getting a little further from what I would like. Like, I wish JDM was like a dog or like
Yeah,
close to pick 'em, Like, I will probably
yeah.
take that instead. For now, 150, it's a little wide for me. So I'll probably pass. But we'll see. Maybe it swings the other way, and maybe I'll try to get better value in that sense. Moving on to another fight on the main card here, we have this is going to be a really fun fight. So, fight for the people, right? I think both these guys are really people's champs in a way. We have Kevin Holland versus Michael Page. This is going to be Michael Page's debut in the UFC. Kevin Holland, 25-10. He is 2-3 in his last five. He's coming off of that split decision loss to JDM, like we mentioned last fight. Michael Page, 21-2. He's 4-1 his last five. He's coming off of that leg kick KO in Bellator, and he's making his UFC debut here. Looking for the odds for this fight right now, we have Kevin Holland at -141, opened up at a -135. There was a point where he was a -200, but people took that dog action on Michael Page. Alex, what do you think about this entertaining fight we have here between Holland and Page here?
Yeah, I really don't have much to say about this fight, actually. It was hard to I think it's hard to pick a side. I really don't know, just because MVP Michael Venom Page has such an interesting style. Like if you watch his fights, he's kind of just I don't know how to really describe it. It's like kind of like Tim Elliott against that one again fuck, who was he against? He was against that like one Mexican dude.
Victor Altamirano. Like this.
Yeah. It looked kind of like that. But uh Michael Page, obviously fantastic striker, but has a hole in his game, and that's the grappling and the wrestling. He can get taken down pretty easily and held down. But I don't know if Kevin Holland's going to take advantage of that hole in his game. I feel like it's just going to be striking against striking. Um, because Kevin Holland should have taken down JDM in his last fight, but
Yeah.
it just remained standing. So yeah, both guys are going to stand and fight. Obviously, both guys are very skilled. Kevin Holland, super skilled fighter, no doubt. But yeah, no pick here. I don't have a good read on this one.
Yeah. Yeah. This is just going to be a highly volatile fight because I don't think that we're going to kind of know what's going to happen until, they kind of fight. I think Holland's an entertaining striker, shown to have underrated jiu-jitsu skills as well. Uses range, has power in his strikes, really durable and tough. He's only been KO'd once in his career, and that was that fight against Wonder Boy, where he just kind of had to stop because his hand broke. I think that he has solid jujitsu skills, able to finish fights with chokes, long arms, lend themselves to be able to cinch in those chokes at a high rate. Good at scrambles and transitions. He just doesn't have the best wrestling though, or takedowns. 38% takedown accuracy, lands almost. I mean, I think he lands like 0.78 takedowns a fight. So yeah, I mean, I think this guy is just he's proven to be a company man, right? And what I mean by that is that he had the handshake agreement with Wonder Boy to not grapple, to just have a entertaining main event fight in Orlando, and he didn't take advantage of Wonder Boy's grappling hold there until he had to because his hand broke. Um, I think Page, this is going to be a mostly stand-up striking kind of matchup. I think that Michael Page, man, I grew up kind of watching highlights of this guy on YouTube. Like I was like, man, who is this dude that just fights with so much swag, like has some devastating finishes. Like, he just fights like he's the best fighter of all time. Like this is how he fights. Like he's that crazy. It's actually kind of similar to Wonder Boy. I mean, kind of karate, kind of
Yeah,
kickboxing, right?
yeah,
Although obviously just not as like, I don't think he's as efficient as Wonder Boy. It's just more about that entertainment. So both these guys are just going to go for that entertainment, in my opinion, and that's why just going to be a stay away from me. I mean, if I knew that Holland was going to be able to just grapple, then this would be an easy Kevin Holland smash. But it's just been too many fights, and we've seen this guy just not utilize any grappling in his game. I think that him and the UFC just have some kind of deal where he's just going to strike in all of his matchups just to make entertaining fights. So, yeah, I think that pick for me is Kevin Holland by decision, but I'm probably staying away from this myself. I'm just gonna watch it and enjoy the fight. let's move on to the co-main event, and we have yet another banger. I mean, this is a one of the best fights of the year, in my opinion. We have Dustin Poirier versus Benoit Saint-Denis. Dustin Poirier, 29-8. He is 3-2 in his last five, coming off that KO loss to Justin Gaethje, where he got head kicked. BSD, 13-1, 5-0 in his last five. He's coming off a head kick KO win over Matt Frevola. Looking at the odds for this fight, BSD is a minus 200, opened up at a minus 150. Alex, what are your thoughts here on the co-main we have between DP and BSD?
Yeah, so completely agree, man. This is gonna be a super exciting fight, man. I love BSD. He's actually one of my favorite fighters. Um, I think I I think he's like super legit. Like this guy's actually insane in my opinion. I remember his last fight when like, Matt Frevola against BSD and what the line ultimately closed at. Um, to me, it really made no sense. I just thought that BSD was just so much better, and I actually agreed with what the books opened the line up at. I forgot what it was. I think it was like minus three. It might have been minus like
Yeah,
two, three,
it
three
was something
hundred.
like that, right?
Yeah. But then it closed much closer. Um, But yeah, man, BSD, Benoit Saint Denis, he really gives no fucks. Like he's going to walk, his opponent down. Um, and in this fight in particular, I think he's going to put a ton of pressure on Dustin Poirier. Because Benoit, he just lands like I'm not even talking about the grappling, but just the body kicks. Like he kicks super hard, and I was on Twitter and I saw this video of BSD's neck workout and it looked insane, dude. I don't know if you saw it, but like, yeah,
Yes.
he attached this thing and then like, oh my God, it was crazy. But minus 200 is kind of a lot though. It's like for like especially against an opponent like Dustin Poirier, who's a proven warrior himself, with really great technique. Um, but my pick is going to be Benoit Saint Denis. I wish I had gotten. I wish I had gotten much earlier. I think his odds were a lot better last week.
Yeah.
So that was not good on my part. But yeah, I don't have a bet in yet for this. But we'll see throughout the week.
Yeah, this was a fight that I was actually going back and forth between the last couple weeks. I was debating what side I wanted to be on. Dustin Poirier is a lightweight mainstay, former interim champion, just a great boxer, likes to move forward, fight in the pocket, Philly shell kind of style, right? I think that aside from his last KO loss to Justin Gaethje, just proven to be really durable with good cardio on the feet. He's the kind of fighter that you want on in a dog fight. I think that the grappling case is probably going to be where that's why the odds are the way they are. I think that BSC just has that grappling upside that he's most likely going to hit, in my opinion. I think that DP's cardio just becomes lessened. His gas tank becomes worse after someone gives him a nice little grappling session. I mean, we see it in a lot of his fights that he loses. Um, but aside from that, like you mentioned, I think that BSD is just a solid all around fighter, proven to just have dangerous finishing capabilities everywhere. He's a good striker. I think that he likes to be a marauder, move forward like 100% of the time. We saw that last fight, right? Like right after they were unclinched from Matt Frevola. Matt Frevola was the one backing up, and like BSD just launched this head kick, like KO finish. That's all she wrote. Like this guy is like nuts. Good body kicks. We saw that against Ismail Bonfim. He turned him to Bonfrad. Um, this guy just has power in his hands as well. He's not the cleanest boxer, you know, but just highly durable. Each shots takes them. I mean, this guy was like French special forces or something like that. Like
Yeah.
this guy is crazy, bro. High grappling pace and pressure, good takedowns with solid timing on entries. Just a vast amount of tools in grappling. He out grappled Bonfim, who was thought of as a decent grappler. Does chain submissions pretty well as well. I mean, God, originally I was on DP. I thought that he was just going to be able to outwork and outgrind this guy. And this is actually, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be a 5 round fight, right? Is it a 5 round or
I'm not
6 round fight?
sure.
I heard it was a 5 round fight.
Oh, it's
But
five.
yeah,
It's five.
it's five. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's why I thought DP was gonna win those kind of fights, because like usually he does win a 5 round fight. This guy's just an absolute dog. But and this is gonna be BSD's first 5 round fight. But I think that head kick is just the foreshadow of what's about to happen to DP in his career. I mean, he really likes to outgrind and outwork opponents later on. But in order to use that game plan, he needs the chin, the durability, and the cardio. And DP has just been in so many wars, given us so many great fights, so many fight of the nights, that he's already been speaking about retiring in the near future, saying that any fight could be his last. I mean, he just said that like last week. He's like, yeah, I'm 35. Any fight could be my last. This could be it. So I think BSD will just be able to put on that pace on his grappling, and that grappling upside is going to be too much. And I think that he will find a sub on DP at some point in the fight. So I'm going BSD via sub. I know it's minus 200 right now, and that might be a little disrespectful for a guy like DP, but I just think that this is too much of a stylistic matchup that's going to be in favor of BSD. So I would actually play that in a parlay. Me personally, I'll play him at minus 200 even. I would play him up to like minus 250, to be honest. So
Mhm.
yeah, give me some BSD this week. I think he's gonna lock it in. Let's move on to the main event. This is gonna be a matchup that is a rematch. Sean O'Malley versus Marlon Vera. Sean O'Malley, Sugar Sean, 17-1, or 18-0 if you ask him. He is 4-0-1 his last five. He is coming off of that KO victory over Aljamain Sterling for the championship, fighting against Marlon Chito Vera, 23-8-1, 4-1 in his last five. He's coming off of that decision win over Pedro Munhoz. And as we look for the odds on this fight right now, has some pretty crazy line movements. So minus 220 opened up for Sean O'Malley, and he has since been bet to minus 300. So I think everyone's on the sugar train this time. Alex, what do you think about this main event rematch for the championship between O'Malley and Vera here?
Um, so, I think Sean O'Malley is like a very great counterpuncher. I think, we saw that in his last fight against Aljo. Aljo kind of uh entered kind of a little bit sloppy, and Sean O'Malley made him pay. And, one pop and he was knocked out. Um, then in the Piotr Yan fight, I thought, as I mentioned earlier in the video, I thought he lost that fight. But I will say that, his striking was clean. He was landing some pretty heavy shots on Piotr Yan, and he even cut him open. And I think in that fight, what I really liked was that, yes, he was getting taken down, but he was getting back up. And uh, I think for most fighters, that that was a very exhausting fight, for any bantamweight to kind of go through what Sean O'Malley did. But for him to come into that third round and still look fairly fresh, I thought that was really impressive, actually. And so Sean, he's never been in a 5-round fight. And so obviously that cardio is going to, come into question. But I did like what I saw from that Petr Yan fight, how he was able to still look fairly dangerous, even after, being chain wrestled and held down by Petr Yan. Uh, but, I am a little bit cautious about this fight just because, first, he's never been in a 5-round fight. Marlon Vera, Marlon Vera just never wears any damage, right? In his career, he's never been knocked out, nor has he been submitted. And so, you know, I, I'm going to assume that this fight is going to, make it into the championship rounds. Um, and what I will say from that first fight between Marlon and Sugar Sean was that Sean was having a lot of success with those leg kicks, calf kicks. And yeah, I mean, if that fight would have gone on longer, was Marlon Vera going to be compromised, on his feet? Like, I don't know. Tough to tell. Um, so yeah, and like, Marlon Vera also has insane cardio himself. Like, he's not going to slow down. And it's interesting because Marlon Vera also he's notorious for starting out very slow. Like, he always loses the first round. And obviously, Sugar Sean is a counter puncher. He kind of wants the opponent to move forward. So it'll be interesting. I think, Sean will probably win the first 2 rounds, and then, 3, 4, and 5 are kind of a bit up in the air. Oh, actually curious, what are the round props for this?
Yeah, I'm
Oh, it's four and a
thinking
half. Yeah, see.
exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean they think it's gonna go the distance, and
Yep.
so yeah, like 3, 4, 5, man, that could get like dicey. Um, so I don't know. I don't know what to say about this fight. I kind of feel like the value side is for on Chito Vera,
Hmm.
but yeah, that's what I'll say.
Yeah. I mean, minus 300, kind of wide. Let's just look at what did he close at in the first fight between Marlon and Vera? Let me see. He closed at minus 250. So they don't think much
Mm,
has changed, I guess, since
yeah,
that last fight. And he opened up minus 220 this time. So I guess they thought that maybe a little bit better odds, but I mean, people were still hammering. Yeah, I mean, O'Malley, yeah, just a high level kickboxer, in my opinion. Just uses that length and height really well. He's a really good use of feints. It's kind of like Izzy, right? There's a lot of like fakes and like those kind of things. Long straights have KO danger. I mean, we just saw this guy KOs people pretty well. Switch stances as well. Uses good footwork. Can circle off the cage pretty well as well. I mean, I think his accuracy is outstanding, like 61% striking accuracy. He has spinning attacks as well. I mean, front kicks, we're able to work in the kicks, leg kicks. Elusive on the feet. I think that he has really good movement, keeps the range, and bides his time pretty well. He's actually a pretty patient striker. But even though he's patient, I mean, this guy still has pretty high volume, like 7.25 strikes land per minute as a counter striker. Insane. That's insane.
yeah,
Yeah, I think he's actually really good at striking, man. You know, Vera is a dangerous finisher, right? Starts really slow in his fights. He does make solid reads on his opponents off those slow starts, but I mean, he has counters, powerful KO shots. I think he has great striking kind of defense if you just factor in that durability and that chin. Like you mentioned, this guy has never looked damaged in any of his fights, even if he gets his ass beat. Like it looks like
yeah,
I've never seen him bleed, never seen a cut from him
never.
anywhere. So he wears damage pretty well. He can be a bit low volume, just waiting for that KO shot. I mean, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We saw it worked out pretty well in that Dominic Cruz win, right? I think Dominic Cruz was doing really well in the scorecards, but Cheeto just found that KO shot eventually. And in that last fight with Corey Sandhagen, though, it didn't work out that well for him because, again, he was getting just outpointed by Sandhagen. also out grapple at times. I mean, so yeah, I think for me, I'm siding with O'Malley here. Obviously minus 300, so he's the favorite. But I think in that first fight, to me at least, Sean just seemed to be on his way to just outworking Cheeto for 3 rounds. He's going to lose that first round, in my opinion. I think that this 5 round format will actually help Sean out. I know that, Cheeto is also really good in 5 round fights, but I think that Sean will be able to just outwork Cheeto for 5 rounds. I do think he has underrated cardio. We just haven't seen it yet. Um, this guy's one of those guys that, smokes like weed every day. And like Fluffy Hernandez. I mean, like just somehow they have incredible cardio from doing something that damages their lungs every day. So I don't know how that happens. He just has some kind of genetic gift. I just don't believe that Vera is a good enough striker to beat Sean over the course of 5 rounds. He'll be dangerous, I think, but I just don't think that he'll be good enough as far as technique to actually outpoint this guy. So yeah, Sean just be too elusive for him. I think this fight could look like Vera's lost to Sandhagen, except just no like takedowns from Sean, right? Because I mean Corey was working in those takedowns as well, just kind of winning rounds that way. But I think that I just think Sean is a better striker than Vera. I think that's where it's gonna probably play out. So pick here is Sean O'Malley via decision. Um, minus 300 is a little wide in my opinion for a parlay piece. So maybe at the end of the week I'll decide what I want to do with that. But one prop and one kind of play that I really like is fight goes the distance minus 135. I think that's incredible value. I mean, opened up at plus 190 and now it's minus 135. So I can't believe it opened up at plus 190. That's crazy. I think that this fight's going the distance for sure. That over 4.5 round line is also pretty decent. I mean, minus 160, not as much value in my opinion, but I think minus 135 on Bovada, also one of our affiliate links, by the way, minus 135 is pretty good value. So hopefully that's something that we could potentially attack later on in the week. But yeah, I think Sean O'Malley via decision, but I'll probably look at play props for this fight specifically. That about does it for the UFC 299 breakdown for Pure Picks. Alex, do you have anything else you want to add before we hop off for the night?
No, man, just, check out purepicks.gg. Consider signing up, becoming a member. But yeah, beyond that, really looking forward to this pay-per-view event, and I think it'll be a big night for us. So I'm looking forward to bouncing back.
Definitely, definitely. Miami, Florida. That's where the event's going to be, 6 p.m. Eastern. That's when it's going to start. So, yeah, definitely, guys, tune in. Check out our website, purepicks.gg, for some gigalogs, some plays that we have throughout the week. And really, guys, just best of luck. I can tell you personally that we're pretty damn hungry this week to try to bounce back from that last week. So, let's get it all, guys. Let's get it all. Best of luck, everybody. We'll see you guys soon.